Have you ever wondered why contracting prices are all over the place? When you get an estimate on something, you have estimates from here all the way up to here. The question is why? Well, I got Brooks here today. When I introduce him, he's going to interview me and give you the breakdown of why that is. The Educated Homeowner, Know Your Home Like a Pro, brought to you by A New Day Construction, where every day is a new day. All right, so I'm excited today. We flipped the script a little bit today. I'm on this side. I'm going to answer questions from Brooks here. A little bit about Brooks. He does our marketing. He does all our Google advertising, does our website. Right. So if you've been on our website, this is the man that did it. If you've called him for a lead, he's made it happen. So he's really been a tremendous help to our business. I communicate with him on a weekly basis. And you're entrenched in the construction industry because you work with a lot of contractors. So
exactly.
So you just basically deal with contractors.
That's right. And on top of that, Jerry, I'm actually a homeowner as well. So I have all these questions too about, pricing and all these things. So yeah, man, let's get into it.
Well, cool. I'm glad I brought you on. So yeah, let's go with it. So hit me with some questions and
all right. Well, so really, what I've seen in the construction industry is that there's really three types of main, I guess, categories that contractors kind of fall in, in terms of level of experience. Right. And so what are those three main, in general, what are those three main?
Well, there's categories? Of course, it all depends on what work you need done. Mm-hmm. So there's the handyman, and then there also goes into two chucks in the truck, right? So, and then there's that mid-sized contractor that usually has one, maybe two crews, and the owner's still working on site. He's bouncing between jobs. And then there's the more corporation, the more established companies that have project managers, teams, follow-ups, the insurance and everything that revolves around construction projects. So that's the main three. Mm-hmm. And that's why you get so much confusion on why is the price differently? Because, if you're two chucks and trucks, you don't have the overhead as a general contractor company does. So there's reasons behind that. So a lot of times, we send estimates out and they go, you're $10,000 higher. And I'm like, and they get mad. I was like, I'm not here to upset you. And we really try to explain the difference. So, we try to break all that down when we're doing it in our estimate, our very detailed estimate. It kind of goes over everything, all our bells and whistles, our insurance is in there so they can see the value. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times in that, a lot of times they don't offer warranty. So yeah, there's definitely three different levels. So we can dive into that and kind of figure out what those levels are and then why they price differently.
Yeah. Well, we've created actually 14 or so main points to go over the differences between these three different levels here. And so we'll just dive right into them. And so I guess the first one and the main one is really experience level. And so how important is just general experience when you're determining who the right contractor is in their pricing and terms like that?
Experience I'm glad you asked that question. I know we kind of went over the questions first and I kind of glazed over them, so I didn't really look at them, but I know the stuff I deal with every day. So, contracting is the only business you can get into with no education whatsoever, no training. And that's where most people start. And so, when you're a handyman or you're two chucks in a truck, they usually start out with decks, and that's the easy thing to go after. But the problem is then they start graduating to porches, stuff like that, and they don't have the knowledge. So I've been on construction sites where they paid thousands of dollars to get some work done, and ridge beams were falling in because they didn't do them right. Mm-hmm. So, education in this industry is definitely a must. But a lot of it's over time as far as, you start out, but you're continuously learning. A lot of small guys out there don't continuously learn. They just go out and do the job and they learn by that. What are they doing in the background? Are they really educating themselves in the proper way of doing things? So.
Right. So in terms of determining the experience level of the contractor, where is the best place to go to actually see, or do they look at testimonials? Do they go to your website, look at pictures? What do you think?
Yeah, experience comes with, to me, Google reviews. Because if you have a lot of experience, it's hard. You help us with our reviews. So you know how hard it is to get a Google review,
that's right,
a legitimate Google review. And so now Google's got really, really tight on fake reviews. So I still see them out there. I still see them slipping through. But I would say as far as experience, what you're looking for is how many Google reviews do they have? Do they have one? Do they have two? If they have experience, they've been in the business a while, they should have several.
Right.
And the more years are in it, it should go. So, if you're dealing with a contractor and you ask them, hey, how long have you been contracting? Well, I've been doing 5 years, and they have 3 reviews. That's not a good sign.
Right.
And so that's the experience level there. Looking at their website, you can actually tell the difference between, if they're really putting the work to grow their business. Do they have a decent website? Is it good? And what other things do you look for? Of course, license. You can ask them for their general contractor's license. Most people in this industry, I will say, do not have a GC license. They typically, if you're asking them to pull a permit, especially 2 trucks and a truck, or anything smaller, they're actually working under somebody else's, and that is good and bad. Well, it's really not good. Well, let me say this: if they truly are, then that contract needs to be on that job site to inspect it, right? Because they're working under this contractor's license. They're paying him a fee to do that. That's why they do it. They get a kickback on, hey, yeah, you can use my license. I trust you. But there's still nobody looking at the work. I mean, you can use your license, but who's actually expected to make sure it's done right? If that general contract's not coming out there. So if they don't have a general contractor's license, say, hey, who are you working under? And is he going to be on the job site? If not, then you might not want to use that. So that's a good indication as far as experience,
right?
If they have a license yet. Another good indication we'll talk about later is insurance. They have proper insurance, because that comes with experience. You can't just when you go out there, when you first start, you don't think about insurance, but it's a bear in this industry. Insurance is really, really tough. So there's a few things there you can look at, and of course, call in some of the reviews and say, hey, how'd it go?
Right. Yeah, and so, in terms of the estimates and the change orders, and really determining why the estimate is priced the way it is, and then change orders are included as well there. So explain a little bit about the differences between the general types of contractors and how they estimate and the change orders there as well.
Yeah, typically in your smaller contractor, you'll see very vague estimates. And it's so funny, I won one yesterday, and I'll go into that in just a second. I'm just shaking my head over this one, but and then as you move up to that, middle road contractor, they get a little more detail. There's still a little vagueness in there. The problem with a vague contract is there's a lot of room in there for the contractor to really make extra money on the job. So they can say, well, that wasn't in the contract. That's going to be a change order. 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 We don't like change orders. We know that unfortunately they are necessary when somebody wants to make a change, or if we dig into something and find some rotten wood. But we really explain that in the agreement. Like if we were going into a demo, we put in there, if any rotten wood is found, there'd be some charges. So we're really upfront about that. I was on a call yesterday, and a gentleman called in and about doing a kitchen remodel. I'm working with him estimate, and actually a whole home remodel. And we got to talking, and we were a lot higher than what some of his bids are. He's like, I don't understand. I said, well, he said, I want to go with you guys because I love everything you do. I love your warranty. I love how your team is. I don't understand why it's higher. I said, do you mind sharing that estimate with me? And again, this is a whole house remodel. Our estimate's so detailed, this is probably a 6-page agreement.
Right.
Every bit of 6 pages. This is 1 page and little bullet points of what he's going to do. And I said, there's no cabinet, he's going to replace your cabinets. There's no cabinet allowance in there. So how do you know what he's going to put in there? You're basically giving him the keys to drive your job. You signed this agreement. He's got all the keys. He could come back to you and say, well, I only got you $2,000 allowance in your cabinets. And, so those are things that you need to be careful with as vague contracts, making sure that you go over to them in detail. And even, and this really, we encourage and we try to go over with our customers or contractors. We got to the point now where we're making those phone calls and we're sitting down with them going line by line. Because we found in the past, even though how detailed we are, customers don't read the contracts. And so, and then we get to the middle of the work and they say, hey, why aren't you doing this? I said, well, it wasn't in the contract. Well, we talked about it. Well, but somehow they didn't make it into the contract. That contract's there. And it's there for you guys to know exactly what's supposed to be going on. So anytime somebody gives you a contract, read it and make sure it's in very detail. Because any vagueness there is a chance for you to, I wouldn't say being taken advantage of, but a way for a contractor to get a change order in. So contracts, make sure there's no vagueness there.
Right. And so you mentioned the insurance and licensing already a little bit, but should those be included in the contract or very, very easily easy to find, and just those, even workers' compensation, things like that? Should all of that be easy to find when reading over an estimate, or getting into an agreement with a contractor?
Absolutely. I mean, we do. To me, if you don't have anything to hide, it should be right there.
Mhm.
Here's who we are. Here's our license. Here's our insurance. And so, yeah, if you're dealing with somebody and they don't have that in agreement, make sure you're asking for it. But to me, it should be part of the agreement. Now, there's a lot of softwares that people use out there. They can't attach that. They should be able to these days. Any contract should be able to do that. But yeah, it's very important. It's on there. But that cause, again, you're signing that agreement. So if it's on the agreement, they have insurance. And for some reason, you're in the middle of a job and you find out something happens, something catastrophic, pipe breaks, something like that. And they don't have insurance. Well, now you have something legally to say, hey, in this contract, this legal binding contract, he put his insurance in here. Now he's saying it's not. So it gives you another leg up if you ever take it to court. We go above and beyond when it comes to liability insurance. So with us, of course, we have liability insurance covers our customers, but we take the next step. So if you sign an agreement with us, they're actually, we're going to take it and we're going to actually go to their insurance company and make them an additional insurer. So their property is going to be listed there. That way there's no ifs, ands, or buts. If something happens there while we're on the job, then they are covered. Yeah, insurance is a bear, and a lot of, and I know we're going to get into insurance, or we get insurance now.
We can do it now.
Okay, yeah. And this is where, wow, I can talk days about insurance. Workman's comp. That's a bad word around here. The industry is corrupt. I would say the insurance industry is just a corrupt industry, but we got to play their game. And to get workman's comp insurance on a company is very, very expensive, more than most people know. For instance, ours was a little over $100,000, and then I got hit with a $124,000 audit, which. Anyway, I'm still God's. I didn't know how I was going to pay it, but somehow we're doing it.
Right.
I put it in God's hands. It's like, I just got to put this in your hands. But anyway, going back to smaller contractors. So the trick in the industry that they do is ghost policies. So when it comes to workman's comp, you can get a ghost policy on one individual, and what that basically says is they have workman's comp. It doesn't cover them if they get hurt on your job, because it excludes the owner. But it allows them to work for a company like us, because everybody who works for us, they have to have workman's comp. We can't get around that.
Right.
And it allows them to do that. Again, it's a ghost policy, but it doesn't cover everybody on their staff or their workers. So if somebody gives you a workman's comp policy, you should be calling that company and say, hey, does this cover their employees? How much coverage do they have? I got 6 guys out here. Does it cover that? Or he's got 6 guys. So making sure that's in place, because somebody gets hurt on your property, and it will happen. It's going to happen. That's a lawsuit waiting to happen. And if they don't have workman's comp and you didn't check behind that, then guess who pays for it? Not them. You. They fell on your property. And so these are things that's like, I get frustrated because customers call in and they go, it is too much for me. I can't pay that price, but you're taking a risk on losing a lot more.
Yeah.
And we're not overpriced. We're fair priced in the market, but still people are, so yeah, making sure, checking behind that insurance. And then there's not only workman's comp, then there's general liability on top of that. So there's 2. So if somebody gives you one insurance and it's workman's comp, well, where's your liability insurance? And that's another thing. That's another cost. Same process, except that liability just covers one person, one company covers everything that you're touching. But in saying that, you still want to, if they give you that insurance, can you make me an additionally insured on your liability? But another thing that happens in this industry, and this is really, really got to be careful of, is they will get a workman's comp insurance policy. They will cancel it or not pay on it. The paper they give you has the date, effective date, and as far as you know, they have insurance. And if you don't call about it and something happens, then they don't have insurance. It's on you. So making sure you're verifying that, making sure that they're properly insured before they step on your property. Because if they're not, you're going to be paying for any mistakes they make.
Yeah. And, it just really sounds like a lot of those things are things that you don't consider. When you're going through a remodel or you're wanting to do as a homeowner, you're thinking about the after, right? You're thinking about, okay, what is my kitchen going to look like? What's my bathroom going to look like? You're not thinking about, what happens when, one of the contractors or the worker steps on a nail or falls down. You're not really thinking about all those things. So it's really good and important to lay that out and just kind of let them know, just what exactly they're getting into and being aware of those different things. So that's really good. So Jerry, tell us a little bit about the quality of work and even the materials that the contractor might be using, and what are some things that we should look out for as homeowners in terms of the quality and things like that.
All right, so yeah, this is a good subject to talk about, because I've been on some job sites, see some crazy things, and that people paid to get their shower done or a bathroom done. I'm like, wow. I mean, it looked, honestly, it looked like a 3-year-old did it. And I'm like, I can't believe this is even called contracting. But as far as when it comes to your smaller contractors, they don't have anybody looking over their shoulder. They have the owner, which is actually working, who's looking over his shoulder to make sure it's right. Who's telling him, hey, that's not up to par. He's going to communicate with the customer. Yeah, that's in range, or that's in tolerance. But is it? So, when it comes to quality work, you want to make sure you're with a company that has, project managers that can oversee the project, that can come in, go through the punch list, and check on that quality work, make sure it's exactly what it's supposed to be, actually what you paid for it. So that's one of the biggest things. And I cannot stress that enough. So when you're dealing with smaller companies, that's what makes it hard, because they don't have anybody looking over them. And what they say is good, it may not be to your level. And so those are things that, you definitely want to, it's always good to have somebody, a project manager, look over that.
And so in terms of the materials as well, the materials that they're using, what should they be looking out for? What should homeowners be looking out for in terms of that?
Yeah, your smaller contractors will source stuff through your surplus stores and stuff like that. So if you're needing shingles, you're gonna go to the surplus store and they can get some shingles. And hey, I got shingles. Again, I wouldn't say the surplus stores are bad, but the quality they're there for a reason. They got returned, or there's some materials there. And I'm not saying we haven't used them for in special occasions when we can find a certain item, but I've had people pull flooring from them places, and they don't give the customer really selection. They just go get the flooring. And I've seen that happen too. Is like, the customer pays for a bathroom remodel, but they didn't get any choices on what type of flooring. They didn't get a choice on what color. I mean, I had one customer, I seen the shower. She said, yeah, he just picked his own faucets and stuff. And it was the funniest thing. And I hope I can find that one. It was a shower, but they installed a bathtub spigot. I mean, like in the bottom of it, and the shower head up here, and it was a shower. There was no tub. And those are things that, how does that happen? So, dealing with a company and stepping up and really having somebody you can fall back on, going, hey, there's your plumber's out here, and he just installed a bathtub faucet. That's not right, is it? Or something like that. So, yeah.
Okay. And so I guess that really goes into my next topic, which is the jack of all trades guy versus the specialists,
right,
and or at least a team of specialists.
Right.
And so, how can we determine, is this guy just a jack of all trades, or he says he can do anything? Like, oh, you need a new roof, just give me a call, I'll put it up there. You need some new siding, or you need a new bathroom. And so how can we look out for that?
Yeah. Now, I will say that's kind of like finding the diamond in the rough. We have a few on our team that would truly be called, they can do a little bit of everything. But in most cases, that's not going to happen. We use been through this many years. We've been doing it. A lot of contractors come through. A lot of hadn't met our levels of standards. So in saying that, your smaller contractors, they have to be. They can't afford to get an electrician, sometimes to come out, a licensed electrician to come out. So they start doing that themselves because they need to save that money. So they'll come in and they'll wire your bathroom. They'll do the plumbing in your bathroom. They'll install the tile in your shower, and do it all. Now, again, there's a few guys out there who can do all that, but you as a homeowner are taking a risk that that's not going to happen. And I say when there's a few. So, if you're only getting 3 bids, you're probably not going to get that few. We use tradesmen. And I think when you step up to a contractor company level, they get in more tradesmen. So for instance, our tile guys do nothing but tile. That's all they do is our tile. We put a 3-year warranty behind everything. We want to make sure it's done right. So if you're getting a tile shower, we want to make sure that it's been done by a tile guy. Same way with the plumber. Plumber comes in, he's going to take care of the plumbing. He's out. Electrician comes in, takes care of the plumber. So everything is done by trade. So even when the people come in and do their interviews, we ask them, hey, what can you do? Well, I can do a little bit of everything. Can you? Let's start over. What are you good at? And that's when we get into the figure what they're good at. So a lot of guys come and say, and they'll say the same thing. I do a little bit of everything. So yeah, that's a big red flag for us.
Yeah, and so that really plays into the next the next topic that I have, or the next question, which is the reputation and reviews. And so if you have a company that has tradesmen doing specific jobs and things like that, then your reviews and your reputation should reflect that.
Right.
And so, if you got a jack of all trades guy, or, just a guy in a truck, then the reviews might be a little bit spotty.
Right.
Someone saying that they had a bad experience with their, with their flooring installation, but someone had a good experience with their, with their new shower, because the guy is used to working in the showers and not so much doing the floors.
Right.
And so tell us a little bit about the reputation and the reviews, and how we can really find, just the right contractor through reputation.
Yeah, the biggest thing I would have to go, and I think you would agree, is Google reviews. That's going to be your strongest, because they're hard to get. It's getting harder and harder. You can kind of dive in on this if you want to. For somebody to put a fake review up. Fake review would be like, hey, me getting one of my friends to go, hey, can you throw a review up for me to help me out there? So I'd go there first. The other one would, as far as quality, would be the Better Business Bureau. If they're with the Better Bureau and they got a good rating there, that's a good thing to look at. Looking for an A+ rating.
Right.
Because so that those two options right there is probably your best option to go to. Other than that, they can give you a reference to call, but if you give you a reference to call, they probably know they're going to say the right thing. So when people ask us for references, I'll say, hey, you can pick anybody on the Google review list if you like, and let me know which ones you want to talk to, and I'll send you I'll contact them first, make sure it's okay, and I'll send their contact information.
Right. And
so that way they get to pick. I don't get to go, here, call this one.
Right.
And it's my mother on the phone. Yeah, I did a great job for me. Best guy ever. Blah, blah.
Right.
So I had a good friend go through that thing. He wasn't able to wait on us. We were busy at the time. And he needed a whole house remodel and just was not going to fit in our schedule. So he went and hired somebody. And their reviews were okay. But ended up hurt him for about $60K, and had to pay contractors to come back here and do the job right. It wasn't good. So it's a must to really vet your contractors, making sure that their reputation, make sure their quality of work, making sure their name in those two areas right there should tell the story.
Right.
If they're not promoting, people are getting reviews, and not really care about growing their business. You know what I mean? Because they're in business. Now I will say there's a lot of guys out there who do word of mouth. And that does work. And there's some guys out there who never advertise, and they stay busy with word of mouth. Those guys are probably going to be your good guys because the words getting out. So those you can actually ask, hey, you mind give me 5 of your last clients, and I can give them a call. So yeah.
All right. So once they determine that, okay, we've got a handful of contractors that we might want to go with based on the reputation, Google reviews, things like that. Now, are there any red flags in terms of timeline? Like if the contractor says, hey, I'll be there tomorrow, versus, okay, we've got sort of maybe a waiting list or a schedule. Is that something to look out for?
I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't think he's gonna bring that one up, but yeah, that's a red flag. 'Cause I've had it. There's times where people call in for estimate, and we put on schedule for 2 or 3 days for us to go out and see the estimate. By the time we call and say, hey, we had to come out, I've already got somebody doing the job. I'm like, oh wow. So if you call a contractor and they can start tomorrow, that's a red flag. That means they're not busy, or and if they can start in the next day or two, that means not busy. Now, I'm not saying that didn't happen to us. We have jobs that sometimes will fall through and or get postponed, and sometimes we got somebody calls in at the perfect time and says, yeah, actually, we can actually get to yours today. That's very rare though. So yeah, and I'm glad you brought up timelines too, because that's a big difference in industry about going for your smaller contractors, your bigger contractors. Because little thing you should know, and maybe you may not know, if you have if you're the owner of your business and you have 1 or 2 crews, well, you have to make everything work. You have to keep 2 or 3 jobs going on any given time, which means is, and if they're small, the problem is they're going to be doing work at your place your place, and they're going to pull off and go work at this place because they got to make money to pay everything. And they may be gone for a day, maybe gone for 2 days. They're going to come back. And so the timeline is not going to be there. If you're expecting for a smaller company to work only on your job until it's done, that's not going to happen because they can't line up the next job. You know, that makes sense. It's kind of hard to schedule and go, all right, I'm going to get this job done. I'm going to spend a week on that one, and then I'm going to start this other job. Because in the midst of all, they still got to go out and price. They get the estimates, you know, and they have to go about getting jobs. So that means that owner's got to go do his thing as far as trying to get more business. And so it leaves you, the homeowner, not knowing when your job's going to be done. So when you step up to more of a corporate level, then you have more timelines. You have schedules. Like now we're putting out schedules. When you sign an agreement with us, you'll know when the demo is going to be done. You'll see a schedule when sheetrock's got to be done. So you'll know your timeline as it goes through. And we strive hard. Somebody's going to be there on a daily basis. You know, there's sometimes somebody breaks down, something happens, plumber can't get out there, but we're striving hard because we want to make sure your job's done so we can move to the next job.
Right.
Because if it's not, then it puts a bottleneck on our company.
Right. And it's very important too, because if you have just a guy in a truck who, they might start one day, might start with the demolition, and you can't use your bathroom, you can't use your kitchen, whatever the area is, and then you don't hear from them in the next week or within a week, and you're sitting there with a torn out kitchen, torn out bathroom, and you're wondering, when is this going to get done so I can get back to normal life? And so when you have that structure, I think that's great.
Yeah, and we're not perfect on it, but at least we have a structure, and our goal is to hit that structure. So our timelines may get bumped a little bit. But yeah, timeline's a big thing in this industry. And it's one of those things kind of nailed down. That'd be something you could probably put in your contract too. If hey, can you be done by this time? If not, then what's the consequences of doing that? And that holds the contract a little bit more accountable to making sure they're get your job completed.
And so going off of structure, what about payment structure? Payment structure? And what should we what are some red flags there?
I want 50% down. I want 50% of the job up front. No. So, especially if they're a smaller company, that's when you're going to get into some huge trouble. First of all, if they don't have the money to bankroll the job, they don't have the money to do any warranty work if something happens. That means if you come to me and I'm doing your kitchen remodel and I don't have enough money in my bank account to buy your supplies and get it started, then that's a big red flag. It's like what if something happens? Then where are you going to get? No, they're going to leave. They're not going to come back because they don't have the money to do that. So to me, if they're asking for a big deposit up front, just be careful. Now, if you're truly trying to save money, you want to help this person out, say, hey, look, we can go to Home Depot together. I can buy the materials. We'll have them delivered to the house. And once you start working, first week, we'll go ahead and pay you for the amount of work you've done. Now, if you do have to give a deposit, some guys out there, because there's a trust thing. A lot of smaller contractors don't trust the customer's going to pay them, because when you're a smaller contractor, that's when you sometimes get in trouble with customers not paying you. Because they view you as, well, you're not going to do anything about it. You're not a big enough company to do anything. If you do have to give a deposit, just make sure it's not a big deposit. Something that's manageable, something that that you're okay with losing, just in case. As far as when it comes to us, we don't take any deposits. Well, we do take deposits on any special order items that need to be ordered, like your cabinetry and stuff. Those companies require full payment up front. But other than that, we don't take any deposits. We start working, and then each week we ask for a draw on the amount of work's done. And so to me, that's the fairest way. Now, very few companies do it this way. We're very minute in that do it this way. But I found it's helped with trust, because the customers can see, well, they did this work. This is what I'm paying for. And that way, if something happens to me, God forbid, or the company, they still have the money. They can finish their job. They didn't give 50% of it, and 10% of the work got done. And all of a sudden, the owner had an accident. That's the thing could happen too. You don't think about this kind of stuff. The owner can have an accident. All of a sudden, they got your money, and they're not going to be able to finish your job because he's out of work. Well, do you think he's going to return that money? Probably not. So yeah, those things to think about. So deposits. So yeah, we don't do it. I don't know if we'll ever do it in the future. Now, when you're dealing with a bigger company, it's okay to get a deposit. Most time they're set up, they take those deposits, but they're going to stand behind their work. Just make sure you're calling references to make sure they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing.
So going off of this kind of pricing structure and just that whole idea there. So who typically hires these different levels of contractor? What are some of those characteristics of the person who might be hiring these people?
Well, there's price conscious people. They only have X amount of dollars to deal with, and then they can't go over that. So those buyers are really going after the smaller guys to do. Again, that's a danger zone, because you may be thinking you're saving money, but you either got work needs to be redone, it ends up costing more money. So typically, if they're low budgets, then you'll find they're going after that lower price point. Now, people calling us and we can't do it. We're too big to do a smaller job. I usually will recommend one of our guys to do it on the side. That helps them out, so they don't get caught in that trap of getting somebody that's bad.
So to sum all this up here, so I guess the last question that I have is about warranties. And so after the project's done, after the job's complete, what happens if there's something goes wrong, or the faucets stop working, or so what should we be looking out for in terms of warranty between these different types of contractors here?
What mostly happens, you're calling them back, you leave a message and they don't answer, or you tell them, hey, I got a problem, and they're ignoring your call. And so warranties, again, I'll go back to what I said before. If they don't have enough money in their account to bankroll the job, if they're having to have a deposit because, ma'am, I need the money to buy the materials, then they don't have the money for warranty. They just don't. And so, and I would say less, I don't know what percentage it is, but a very small percentage, I think this too in this industry, that even offer warranties. And mostly you'll find warranties in your corporations, your bigger companies. We do a 3-year warranty. We're actually touring around going to a 5-year warranty because I believe that if you do the work right, it should stay. Now, ours is a workmanship warranty. A lot of people go, well, my microwave broke. You installed it. Well, yeah, but the microwave broke. You went to install, So it's more of a workmanship warranty. But I would say most of your smaller companies, you're not going to get a warranty. And if you didn't do your homework and that, they're requiring these deposits up front, that they probably can't afford it anyway. And so this is where I see customers get in trouble a lot, especially when it comes to showers, stuff like that you can't see the results or the results of bad work for a year later, and then there's no contract to be found. And we hear that a lot more than you would think. We get calls in, I wouldn't say daily, but weekly, we get calls in of a contractor that did bad work that they need fixed. And so what money they saved on the front end, guess what? They should have paid somebody to do it right.
Right.
So that's things they got to think about as a customer. Really think about, should I wait until I save the money to get it done right? Because it's like playing Russian roulette. You're throwing it out there, going, hoping they do it right. If they do, you win. If they don't, you lose. And so, so warranties is big. So if they don't offer warranty, I want to say too that warranties in the construction industry, most people, if you get a car warranty, an extended warranty, they're charging for that warranty, right? You got to pay extra for that.
Right.
We don't charge extra for warranties. And so these are things that we do because we're proud of what we do. We want to stand behind our work, and we want to make sure it's done right. And so there's no point of you hired me to do a kitchen remodel, and I don't. A week later or a year later, something breaks that we did, and I'm just losing so bad. Sorry for your loss.
Right.
No, it's always doing the right thing.
So as homeowners, when we're looking for the right contractor, and we're looking at the pricing and the difference between the prices of one contractor versus another, are there any last minute things that we should know, or how can we wrap this up here?
Wow, a lot of packed information in this today. So a little bit of kind of going back. If you're looking at hiring a contractor, save this video, mark it, make some notes on it, because these are things, as we went through each one of these categories, which you should be looking for, and knowing the consequences if you don't pick that one right. So yeah, just one, making sure everything we just talked about. I know it's kind of hard to wrap it up in one sentence. It's not. I can't just put it in one sentence. It's a combination thing. So just, and a lot of times you get that good feeling. So that's what advice I'd give you. Anytime, God gave us a soul, and our soul's telling us, hey, So, if you feel in their gut something's not right, and then it's not right. And I did want to, before we go, and I'm glad you brought that up. One of the biggest things we did not talk about is communication. Communication up front. If they're not calling you back on a timely fashion, they get back with you, then they're not going to do that on your job. It's just not. It's called human habit. It's just not going to happen. So that's one thing you look for too. Is the biggest thing is communication. If they're not communicating on the front end right, then they're not going to do it on the back end. Yeah.
So it really sounds like cheap work typically isn't good, and good work isn't cheap.
Right.
So
I'm glad you said that. Yeah. What's that? You get good. You want good work. What was it called? Never mind. We'll skip that one. Maybe I should have brought that up. I didn't think about that. I don't know if you've seen that where you get.
It's like a triangle.
3 questions.
Yeah. Like
you want good work. You want it.
Good work, cheap, and like on time, or like quick or fast.
Right, let's throw that in. Right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's throw that in real quick. So there's a we use in the construction industry about, hey, what do you want? And most people they want good quality work. They want it done in a timely fashion. And then what's the third? Oh, they want price to be low. Well, you can't have all three, because your price is low, you're not gonna get good quality work. If your quality work is good, then your price is gonna be high. So to get all three, you can't do it. Now, most people try to shoot for that. And the problem is you can't. So you got to pick what you want. You want quality work, knowing your price is going to go up, knowing the timeline is going to be a bit longer because you're getting quality work, or do you want cheap work? And so so kind of play around with that. And that's you can't have all three. We want all three, but you can't have all three.
All right. Well, all right, Jerry, that's been a lot of great information. That's really helped me out as a homeowner, and just helped me understand the industry a little bit more. So I appreciate you having me on here and let me interview you. So.
No worries. I'm glad you do it. And, I got to thinking, it's like, you know what, let me just let you interview me, because there's a lot of information unpacked here that I think you guys need to know, or should know, when you're out there looking for a contractor. So thank you for coming on. And guys, thank you for tuning in. And I hope this was helpful. If you have any comments below that's happening, maybe you went through some remodeling, stuff like that, some experience that people can help people out, type that below. Just let us know about that. It helps us a ton. If you like and subscribe, that'll help us grow and hopefully give you more content. If you're on Facebook, we do have a Facebook group called Contractors for Christ. You'll see a lot of those videos in here, in that group, and plus get some good information. So if you're on Facebook, check that out. All right, guys, we will see you on the next video.